Folks, we are back with another live stream. Welcome. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. Good to be back. Apologies on the mini hiatus. Very busy. Couple of days at work since coming back from break. Spent time with the family over the weekend past Thanksgiving. Was really glad to do that and was glad to still be able to answer your fantasy football questions. And that's because we've got a Discord now. I see Jordan's in the chat. Shout out Jordan. He was the one who suggested I do this to try and interact with you all a little bit closer and make it a more engaging community and just more interactive in general. So if you go in the link in the description right now, we actually have a link to the Discord. I believe there's 7 or 8 of you in there right now. You can jump in there, ask me start sit questions. There's a tab for trades. There's general announcements. You'll find out I'm going live before I go live so that you can jump in the chat and get your questions in the queue before anybody else. So again, folks, welcome here to the live stream. I see Tino's in the chat as well. What's up, Tino? Any fantasy football questions you have, make sure you ask them. Also, make sure you check out our merchandise store. There's a link to our Armchair Fantasy Football store in the description below, along with a link to our Discord. Like I just mentioned, if you want rapid answers from me, I'm checking Discord and responding a little bit quicker there than I am YouTube, just because those notifications ping up on my phone a lot more right now. So make sure you join that for research and channel updates. In today's live stream, we're going to do something a little bit different. I think it's kind of something you have all been requesting without really realizing it. We're doing live research here ahead of week 13. A lot of you, when you first found this channel, asked me, Corey, what do you look at to see who I should be starting, who I should be sitting, who I should be buying low on? How do I project somebody whose stock's going to go up, down, who's going to flatline, who has a glass ceiling because of the situation he's in? All those lingering questions of what on earth do these fantasy football YouTubers really look at to come up with these conclusions? I'm going to go over today. At least what I go over. I can't speak on everybody. Tino says Brock or CJ. This week, probably Brock considering the matchup. CJ Stroud, not the easiest matchup against that Broncos pass rush. So that's kind of my early opinion. But I'll go over some of this research and how I make these conclusions. So folks, if it's your first time here, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. And most importantly, go in the live chat right now and ask any questions that you have. I'm going to put the chat up here in the stream itself so we can get all of your stuff, all your questions on here. Gives me no reason to not see them. All right. Hope all of you had a great holiday with your families, all that good stuff. Let me know what you did. Any weird Thanksgiving traditions? Any interesting food? I think I talked about this on my streams last year. I heard some interesting stuff. I know some of you are from East Coast, West Coast. I'm a Midwest boy, so I feel like we're pretty basic, but that's all relative, right? MA Football Guys saying my holiday was good. Thanks. Did you get my screenshot on Discord? Let's see here. Check it right now. What do you think? 8-4, 94% chance at the playoffs. We've got Dak, ETN, Charbonnet, Thielen, Collins, Laporta, Ayuk. Dolphins defense this week against Washington and Cameron Dicker. Top to bottom, you've got some really underrated guys. Charbonnet is going to capitalize on that opportunity with Kenneth Walker III. Come on, am I on? Oh, yeah, you are. But, oh, yeah, MA Football Guy, what's up, man? So I'm seeing a lot of opportunity here with Zach Charbonnet, obviously with Kenneth Walker III down, with Adam Thielen coming off a few down weeks, but he's still the primary contributor in this wide receiving core. And on this offense, it looks pretty lost. Now, what's going to happen now that Frank Reich is gone? I'm really not sure I can tell you. This is still a losing football team, and what I can tell you is it's still going to be pass heavy because they're going to be working from behind a decent amount. Dak Prescott gets so much hate. So much hate. But he produces. He produces in fantasy. He's a great volume passer. I said it to everybody coming into this year. He's a career 250 passing yards per game guy. He's going to give you volume. Would you trust the Browns this week? That's coming from Tino. The Browns front seven is one of the most dangerous in the entire league. Browns against Rams. I think the Rams have sputtered on offense at times. We saw Puka and Cooper Kupp not get shut down, but just not be really utilized a whole lot. So I'm thinking Browns defense over most, Tino. If you want to run everything by me in terms of who's on waivers, we can go that route. But I'm taking the Browns pretty much every week. Now, defense and kicker, those are two positions I really do like to stream. But yeah, the Browns week in, week out. You've got Myles Garrett. You've got a dominant front seven. You've got one of the most dominant pass defenses as well. They've been top of the league in terms of pass yards allowed per game. That's kind of where I stand on that. All right, so keep popping those questions in, folks. I am actually going to go on here. And like I said before, a lot of you wonder, Corey, what are you looking at to make these distinguishments of, all right, who should we be starting this week? Who should we not be starting this week? You know, whose stock is going to go up? Who's in a good situation? Who isn't? What are people talking about when they refer to usage specifically? All that good stuff. Neurological Gaming saying, do I take Jordan Love or do I take Justin Herbert against AJ? AJ, what league are you in with me? I'm kind of curious now. But obviously Jordan Love going up against the Chiefs this week. They're going to be at home in Green Bay. Pretty cold weather. I live about an hour and a half from Green Bay, so I can speak. First things first, I can let you know that it's not very warm right now here in Wisconsin. And then Justin Herbert. Where? Oh, against the Patriots. Okay. I'm with you in the sleeper and redraft. Like, oh, you're Fletcher. Okay, how's it going, man? I was like, someone's in here. I don't know who's playing AJ this week. Justin Herbert against the Patriots or Jordan Love against the Chiefs. I do think Love's going to have to go throw heavy. And obviously he's not hurt. Herbert is hurt from time to time. I think he's all right now, but the supporting cast around him obviously hasn't been great. Mike Williams been down for a while. Josh Palmer in and out. Even Gerald Everett. If we look at climate, they're both going to be outdoors, so that kind of negates that because the Chargers will be in Foxborough. Jordan Love will be at home. If anything, we can say that Jordan Love's used to this weather. Yes, he's been a backup the first couple years of his career, but he's not going to be shocked when he goes out there and it's 15 or it feels like sub-zero temps. He is over 260 passing yards in each of the last 3 games. His over-under on Underdog right now is like 230 passing yards over-under, so I'm taking the over on that. I think it's going to be a throw-heavy scheme against Kansas City for 2 reasons. 1, you have to compete with Patrick Mahomes in that high-flying offense. And 2, the running back room is very thin. Long-term injury or not, we know that Aaron Jones has been hurt a decent amount. So I'm going to say, and then Emmanuel Wilson went down, I'm going to say they don't give A.J. Dillon the ball 30 times. Yes, the weather's cold, but at the same time, Jordan Love's been developing a lot as a passer. He looks pretty confident, and Justin Herbert's going to be in a climate that more times than not he's not used to or playing in. I'm going to take Jordan Love, Fletcher. I'm going to go with him. And that's saying a lot. I'm a Bears fan. So Tino's Time says Chargers are the best available. I had the Dolphins but made the wrong decision. Chargers against the Pats. I wouldn't hate that against that defense, to be honest with you. But I'd probably hang tough with the Browns. We have a stronger defense, forcing more turnovers, gathering more sacks. The Chargers spent a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball, and they just haven't really contributed. Fletcher says kind of what I'm thinking as well. Yeah, that's the route I'm thinking of going. All right. MA Football Guy says bench there is Chris Godwin, Evan Ingram, Hollywood Brown, and Butker. Dak's really produced for me, and I wouldn't lean away from him. I mean, this is a high-powered offense. There's been a heavy utilization of CeeDee Lamb, which we anticipated. He was fringe top 5 in standard PPR leagues last year. And, you know, he was talking a little bit, I believe, about a month ago now that he wasn't getting the ball enough. The guy is one of the best producers out there. He and A.J. Brown, the NFC East is rich with top-tier wide receiver talent when you look at those two. So, yeah, Dak is going to do everything and more for you. I mean, the volume passing that we've seen, the fact that Tony Pollard's kind of been neglected in the red zone until the last couple of weeks. He went over 2 months without scoring a touchdown. These are things we're just seeing from a team that's very confident in their passing game. And then, yeah, bench, you've got Chris Godwin, so the wide receiver 2. I would even argue at times wide receiver 1. In a pretty pass-heavy offense still, not as pass-heavy as last year. Rachaad White's getting a little more usage, but he hasn't been efficient by any means. And even he is more involved as a pass catcher than most. Evan Ingram, high-powered offense that's hitting their stride mid-season. Hollywood Brown, number 1 option on a losing team that's going to be, game script-wise, pretty pass-heavy because they have to be because they're working from behind. Harrison Butker, I mean, kickers I'm pretty neutral on, but sure, you've got a kicker in a high-powered offense. So, yeah, MA Football Guy, I feel pretty good about that team top to bottom. 94% playoffs. You're probably in, right? You could lose out, not that we want that to happen, and it's probably more so of a tiebreaker thing where you need to have more points than somebody else, so you need somebody fighting for that last spot to lose, and maybe they're playing each other, right? So, yeah. Tino says, never mind, somebody picked them up. Yeah, just run with the Browns, man. I mean, the front 7 is really hard to question. East Coast with a Midwest flair here. Midwest flair? Are you from the Midwest? I'm kind of curious now. With a Midwest flair, I'm very curious. Elijah's in here. What's going on, Elijah? Who are some players to trade for that have good matchups? Playoff matchups. Love it. All right, Elijah. So that's what this video is pretty much about. I'm doing research going into week 13, but I'm obviously considering weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Let me know when your playoffs start, by the way. Mine start in week 15, and then it's 2-week playoff matchups rolling all the way to the end. So you Jalen Hurts owners, yeah, yikes. Or really any Eagles owners, they could have a first-round bye pretty much solidified, and he might not be playing the last week. So time to vote against the Eagles, right? But Elijah, we're going to go over my process, and I'll start with what you just asked. So the question from Elijah is, who are some players to trade for that have good playoff matchups? Mine start in week 15. Yeah, that seems pretty universal, right? So this is what we're going to look at. You're talking about trading, so I'm assuming your deadline has not come and gone yet. Fantasy Pros. Fantasy Pros is where I do, I would say 80% of my research. I will use Sleeper for usage things. If you go to a random player, Derek Carr is a horrible example because he's a quarterback, but you've got snap percentage, and actually it's interesting. He hasn't played in 100% of snaps yet this year. Injuries early on, and then the Taysom Hill effect. But I love to use Sleeper for the sake of usage and longevity. You want to look at somebody and say, all right, is this a consistent producer? Matthew Stafford actually is, for the most part. Last couple of years have been a little shaky with injury. So I like to do that, especially with running back situations where we're maybe looking for an impact player, and maybe they aren't the primary guy on their team, but all of a sudden an opportunity has risen. Oh my gosh. Everybody in this backfield is hurt. A.J. Dillon's hurt now. Did not practice today. Okay. But I love using Sleeper for snap count percentage. Now, for what Elijah is asking, he's asking about buy candidates for the playoffs. So remaining strength of schedule, we're obviously considering weeks 14 or 13 through 18. I cannot filter by weeks. 13 through 17. Interesting. So they're neglecting week 18. So that could come down to your championship. That's going to come down to a case-by-case basis. But these stars here on Fantasy Pros, where, again, highly recommend. I do a lot of my research. You're getting injury updates up the side. And one of my favorite things this time of year, strength of schedule. Buy in before people really start thinking about the playoffs. And they probably already are. MA Football Guys saying, should I play anybody off my bench? Judging by what you just sent me, I'd stick with what you have. All right? Grandma was born from Peoria. Dad was born in Erie, Pennsylvania. Uncle was born in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's right by me. I grew up 30 minutes from Milwaukee. Born and raised in Massachusetts with very strong Midwest roots, including a slight accent. I'd love to hear the Midwest accent. I don't think we have one, but I'm sure to other people we do. So strength of schedule for Elijah. I am very off topic today. I just want to make sure I get to your comments in case you guys ask anything here. Strength of schedule remaining. This is the easiest way to go about it. So if you're in the market for a quarterback, Elijah, or let me know what positions you're looking at. Quarterback, we're thinking Russ. And then from there, right, we don't just want to chalk it up and go, all right, they've got an easy schedule. Let's run with it. I'm not hammering home the buy button on Zach Wilson. 1, because he hasn't been doing well. 2, because Aaron Rodgers is practicing now 3 months after tearing his Achilles. But, yeah. I'm not hammering home a buy button on Derek Carr. Now, somebody with rushing upside, yeah, maybe Justin Fields. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, probably not. Mahomes, good luck getting him. Purdy, you could. Pickett, pretty poor offense. They did look better with Matt Canada gone. And you go down the line, right? Josh Dobbs coming off the worst performance of his young career, but this is one, right? I just made a video about this. Russell Wilson gets a pretty bad rap for having, in my opinion, a one-off. And it's not really an opinion. If you look at the stats, Russell Wilson is 11 for 12. What do I mean by that? He's been productive in 11 of 12 years. From his rookie year, top 5, top 10, number 1, top 10, top 5, top 10. Middle of the pack, slight regression. But in all honesty, this is still something we'll take. This year, there's still this stench from 2022 where people just don't believe in Russell Wilson. He's a meme. You can make him a meme all you want. This guy's thriving right now. Turnovers have been a slight issue with the fumbles lost. 20 touchdowns. He's on pace to double what he had last year, 16. He should eclipse 30 pretty easily. Because not only do we have somebody who's pretty productive who's more invested as a runner than we've seen the last couple of years, on pace for more numbers like this. But he's got that easiest remaining strength of schedule. And you can cross-reference that with Sleeper and go on here and say, all right, who's he playing? Houston, they're middle of the pack in terms of passing yards given up. Los Angeles, whoa. That could be playoff clinching stuff right there. If you have Russell Wilson, somebody who's really taken a step forward, somebody who's not that hot on the market. I'm sorry, why does somebody who has 20 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions only owned in 60% of leagues? This is Sleeper, so it really depends. Go take advantage of that. There's a select few out there who are really confident in Russell Wilson because they have him. But I'm telling you right now, most people either went out and got him mid-season, or he was like their last-ditch, here's my backup, maybe he'll have a comeback year. He's not the quarterback one on most teams. Most people with Russell Wilson right now actually have a surplus of talent. So in all honesty, go get Russell Wilson for the fact he's been very productive offensively. He's been more active as a rusher than we've seen since 2020. And he has the easiest remaining schedule. And these are mouthwatering matchups, especially when you look at Week 14, likely the last week of your regular season in fantasy, where he's playing against the Los Angeles Chargers. And then he plays against the Los Angeles Chargers again, because he's in the West. And then he plays against Vegas. That's insane to me. Yeah, I would definitely go and get Russ. And if you want to go down the line, this is for Elijah again. Running backs, we can do the same thing. Eckler might be kind of tough to get, but with the recent performances, maybe not. Isaiah Pacheco, been high on him all year long with what he's been able to do on an offense that's really reverted more to the run than they have in the past. He's on pace for a 1,000-yard season, just barely. Has the red zone touches as well. But yeah, so the first phase really is looking at remaining strength of schedule. And we can go down the line. Kyren Williams, what a time for him to come back and explode. Wide receiver, same thing. And that's going to pretty much coincide with, for the most part, the points allowed to fantasy quarterbacks. We're trying to attack weak passing defenses as a whole. So Dallas just thriving. You could even make an argument for Brandon Cooks here with his recent involvement. Yikes. I was really hyping this guy up a month ago. Will wholeheartedly agree I'm wrong. Drop issues, and more drop issues. Brandon Ayuk. We were big buy candidates on him in the offseason. Felt like he was going to make that next step over Deebo, and now he has. With the youth, increased involvement each year. Adam Thielen, always a pass-heavy team. And these are things you need to keep in mind, right? You can't just look at them and neglect the fact that San Francisco runs the ball more than anybody else. Okay? You can't look at Quentin Johnson and go, he's the wide receiver 2 on a pass-heavy offense with an easy remaining schedule because he hasn't produced. You still need somebody who, in a vacuum, is a good fantasy option, who is performing well. We cannot say that about the wide receiver 2 for a great passing offense, by most regards, in Los Angeles. All right, let's go back to the chat here. Fairly basic turkey day for MA Football Guy. Kind of sounds like Western Massachusetts. I need to go to Mass. I have a friend in Mass, actually. They're in Weymouth. Let me know if that rings a bell. She works for Harvard right now. MA Football Guy says, just picked up Zach Charbonnet in a couple more leagues. Kind of psyched for him. Yeah, I mean, this is somebody that not only has pretty good pass catching upside, but plain and simple, the Seahawks just spent a decent amount of draft capital on him. You don't go out and spend a second rounder on anybody without the intention of giving them some action, and without the intention of the most part of using them based on the assumption that they're great. You know, this isn't some late round steal or late round pickup that we need to hope breaks out. We know that Zach Charbonnet in the eyes of Seattle is capable, and he's going to get his chances. And now Kenneth Walker III goes down. That makes me all the more a believer. It's not like he's going to be fighting with DJ Dallas, at least from what we're seeing, right, for reps. Wesley Davis says, what's your thoughts on adding Deontay Foreman for the playoffs? I already have Eckler, James Cook, Devin Singletary, and Keaton Mitchell. That's a great pickup. All right. Deontay Foreman's an interesting one because Wesley, we really haven't seen this Bears team entirely healthy all year. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I think even right now they're bruised up. Now this Bears team, not only are they bruised up in the backfield, yeah, Deontay's out, Roschon's in, Khalil Herbertson. I don't know if all three of these guys have played together at 100%. I should preface that this year. But we also have a team that's leaning a little further away from the run. They were the most run-heavy team in football last year. They ran it almost 60% of the time, which is just crazy. Justin Fields is dropping back and passing a little bit more. This is kind of an open tryout for Chicago.
Check out our brand new Hyundai dealership, one of the largest in the Midwest.
Right next door, we've started construction on our all-new Genesis of Waukesha dealership.
But we're not just building walls, we're building careers.
I hope you can.
So if you're looking for a career with great benefits and opportunity for growth, Boucher is the place for you.
I did. Okay. All right. More passing volume is what we've seen from Fields, is I think what I was getting at. Not by much, but to an extent. Don't play. I don't need another ad. I could just turn my volume off. I'm such a boomer. Okay. We're seeing 37 pass attempts, 35, 37 again. I believe, even though Fields is hurt for a few games this year, he's actually on pace to pass up the passing volume we saw last year, or nearly equal it in less games. Better completion percentage, throwing down the field about the same amount, on pace for about the same amount of touchdowns, not turning the ball over nearly as much. Well, I can't really say that because he's fumbled a lot. But, yeah, I would say D'Onta Foreman's an interesting one, Wesley. It doesn't hurt. The one thing we have to consider is the low investment here. The Bears did only pay $3 million for him. This might just be a one-year thing. He's been really productive if we want to look at what he's done. And folks, if you're just dropping in, we're going through my process for research as we head into Week 13 and near your fantasy football playoffs. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe if you just joined and it's your first time seeing the channel. But most importantly, ask any fantasy football-related questions you have in the chat. I mean, if we look back at D'Onta Foreman, it's hard for me to complain. This is somebody who's worked behind a couple legends. He was behind Christian McCaffrey for the first half of last year. Was very productive, worked behind Derrick Henry as the secondary option and had a pretty nice 2021. And he's seen a decent amount of volume, all things considered, for the Bears. He was supposed to be sitting behind Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert has not been healthy. He's pretty much surpassed Roschon Johnson in most regards in terms of usage. We've got a 20-carry game here, a 20-carry game here. I don't know if he's going to be useful for the playoffs because it's just a revolving door, Wesley, in terms of the health of this backfield. So that's kind of just my take on that. I think a safer bet would be somebody like Chuba Hubbard, who's just flat out outperformed Miles Sanders this year. If you can go out and find Chuba Hubbard, you're probably going to have to buy him. I guarantee he's, unless you're in like a 4 or 6 team league. Chuba has been picked up. But this is somebody who's been very productive. We checked in on him around the week 8 to 9 range, if my memory serves me right. And he was outperforming Miles Sanders in yards per attempt before contact, after contact. He's fallen a little bit below here, the 4 yards per carry line, 2 touchdowns. Very involved considering the limited usage this year. As a pass catcher, we have a handful of games where he wasn't even in for half of snaps. And then if we look over at Miles Sanders, I mean, just hasn't really turned out for this team. This team in general is a dumpster fire right now in Carolina, but we see by about 0.7 yards per carry, which is pretty significant. Chuba Hubbard is outperforming and being just flat out used more than an unhealthy Miles Sanders, who just now looks like he's being worked back in, and 15 rushes for 28 yards. That's not really going to help your case when the other guy's outperforming you. So I would go more the Chuba Hubbard route if you can than D'Onta Foreman. If you're looking for a pickup, we kind of have few and far between options here, but let's see what I can do. You know, people keep saying Jamal Williams could be interesting. I wanted him to be. Heavy utilization in the red zone. The Saints go out and grab him. I felt like that was the prioritization. He just hasn't been productive in any regard. We saw a ton of usage the first couple weeks because obviously Alvin Kamara was out, suspended. Rico Dowdle could be interesting if you're in a deeper league. He is seeing a little more usage. I mean, it's nothing crazy. We need him to score a touchdown. I'm not excited about a lot of these, to be honest with you. If you want to go security blanket, handcuff style, DJ Dallas. I forgot about that picture. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I think he does that every year. I swear this is not the first time I've seen this. Has DJ Dallas been doing this for years, chat? Can I go through the college thing where I see like what his profile picture through the NFL is year by year? That genuinely caught me off guard. Yeah. That's funny. I would go Chuba Hubbard. If you want to go security blanket, handcuff, DJ Dallas with Kenneth Walker III being out potentially. I like the Keaton Mitchell move, though. Mitchell's going to be my flex for sure going forward after the bye, but had an extra spot after trading for James Cook. 14-team league, pickings are slim, just wanted to add some depth. DJ Dallas could be an interesting one. Chuba Hubbard, obviously, not on the market for you then unless you want to make another trade. But yeah, I like where you're moving. I like the fact that you jumped on Keaton Mitchell, considering a little over a week ago, John Harbaugh just came out and flat out said Mitchell's going to be getting more touches, and he's looked pretty good. The explosive start for sure, very Devon Achane-esque, breaking free for huge runs, grabbing everybody's attention. Yeah, on by here. The subtle pass catching involvement makes me a little happy for you half PPR and full PPR users. This is nothing crazy, 4.5, 1.8, 5.2, but it's something. It's not someone who's strictly on the ground. Pretty dang close, but this is the most usage we've seen, and we've actually seen Keaton Mitchell get used a little bit more every week, excluding this week that he missed, dating back to week 7. And we've seen nothing but production. 9.28 yards per carry over 29 attempts in an offense that prioritizes the run and is trying to protect Lamar Jackson is nothing to scoff at. So Keaton Mitchell could be an interesting one. I'm sure Odell has been swept off the market, but he's obviously being utilized more than most anticipated. He's a big name, so he was already getting utilized, but yeah, 7 targets, 5 targets. Not great consistency, but again, slim pickings. Wesley, when you talk about a 14-team league, you're just looking for people with upside, hoping they break out. Maybe the person in front of them gets hurt, or they're just in a good situation on offense. Mitchell checks off most of those boxes. He's on a team that prioritizes the run a ton. So, Wesley, I think you're in a good spot. We won't force anything. That DJ Dallas profile picture just really caught me off guard. MA football guys, sorry, I'm skipping around the chat. I could actually grab Russ in my Jalen Hurts league. That's what I'm saying. If you have an elite level quarterback, you could have Russ as a security blanket, especially if you have Jalen Hurts, right? I like the thinking, because what if Jalen Hurts ends up sitting out in week 17 and 18? These are things we have to start thinking about for a one-loss football team in the Eagles that is running away, that's 2 games ahead of everybody. If they clinch that number 1 seed rolling into the last week or two, there is no incentive to play Jalen Hurts. There is no incentive to play A.J. Brown. There is no incentive to play DeAndre Swift. There's no incentive to play Devontae Smith. There's no incentive to go in and play Dallas Goedert. I know you get the point, who's just coming back from an injury, and you got to save him a little bit for the playoffs. The Eagles trying to save him for the actual playoffs because they want to be healthy for that. Yeah. Stashed him while he was on IR. That was smart, Wesley. You're ahead of the pack. MA football guys saying it's pronounced Weymouth, a little ways south of Boston. Weymouth? A little ways south of Boston. Weymouth? Is that it? Weymouth? I feel like I have a lisp when I say that. But MA football guys saying, and Hurts is playing against San Francisco. Russ is at Houston. I may just take him. Yeah, San Francisco is going to be a really tough matchup. And Russ going up against a Houston team that's been allowing in the ballpark of 240 to 250 passing yards per contest. Yeah, that's a bet I would like to take. I would be okay with that. I most definitely would. No complaints from me there. All right. Other things we look at, I think red zone stats are very interesting because you want somebody who's being used trend-wise a decent amount around the end zone. Pretty simple stuff, to be honest, but things that maybe you don't think to look for. Devontae Adams up at the top, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. Are you noticing a trend? These are huge names, top of the market. Then you've got somebody like Michael Pittman Jr. Then you've got somebody like Courtland Sutton. Why is he scoring so many touchdowns? Well, maybe because he's 6th in the league, tied with guys like Stephon Diggs and Jordan Addison, who has been in there without Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf. In red zone touches, we talk about touchdown upside. There's Romeo Doubs in an offense that is just really starting to figure it out. Guess what? He's right up here, scraping into the top 10 in red zone touches. Mr. Consistent all year long, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know, we have some guys who haven't had the most luck. Michael Pittman Jr. with just 1 touchdown. There's Amon-Ra. There's Chris Godwin getting poached by Mike Evans, the bigger receiver on this team. But this is an interesting way to look at things. Who's being utilized around the red zone? And this is where my least favorite case study of the year comes in. Excuse me. Tony Pollard. I traded Tony Pollard. I went against my own philosophy. The analytics said to go and buy Tony Pollard, and I sold him. I hope you didn't make the same mistake I did. This guy has the second most amount of red zone rushes in the league, behind Christian McCaffrey. The part that was frustrating me was for 8 to 9 straight weeks, he never got in the end zone. We look at the pass catching part of things. 8 for 8 on targets. 5th in the league in red zone targets among running backs. 0 touchdowns. But if you look at the other performers around, Tony Pollard, David Montgomery has been a breakout monster and a volume monster at that for Detroit. Christian McCaffrey, I don't have to say anything there. Josh Jacobs, mainly known for his pass-catching upside, but again, at times he's been the only consistent form of offense when Devontae wasn't getting targeted. You know, Jacoby Myers, I'd make an argument he's up there with him too. Kenneth Walker III, super consistent. Not the most efficient guy out there, but he gets the touches when he needs them. And you can get even closer. You could say who's getting these inside the 5, punch it into the end zone opportunities. There's Kenneth Walker III. There's Mr. Touchdown in Austin Eckler. There's Gus Edwards, who has been a monster at scoring. And there's Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is just the exception among a lot of other great fantasy options. Latavius Murray, another one. He's been poaching James Cook the entire year. That's just how they run the offense in Buffalo. They opt for size. It's either Josh Allen up the middle or Latavius Murray. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to drop Sam Howell for Russ. I like it with the remaining strength of schedule. I'm a football guy. I'm a big fan of that move. My point here, folks, is you see a lot, with a couple of exceptions, of great opportunity here. And if you see somebody here who is a starting running back, so not Latavius Murray, who isn't performing very well, you should go and buy in. Because if they're continuing to get used inside the red zone, inside the 5, inside the 10, inside the 15, inside the 20, and we're not getting a message from the coaching staff saying we're going to stop doing it, eventually dude's going to find the end zone. They're getting so many opportunities. All right. Real passionate about this one because I turned left when I told all of you to turn right, buying in on low-value players who have analytics favoring them. Tony Pollard is a textbook example, and he hasn't been bad. He's been top 15, top 20 running backs in the league this year. The efficiency's been down a bit. He was actually below 4 yards a carry until a little bit ago, but he hasn't been bad. But everyone's so frustrated because it feels like whenever this team gets close to the end zone, he gets the ball, can't punch it in. Next play, there's a toss out to Jake Ferguson in the flat. There's Schoonmaker, right? Moral of the story is your contributors will be at the top of this list. And if there's someone near the top of this list who is not hurt or who is not going to be getting less usage going forward from things that we've heard from the coaching staff, guess what? You should invest in them. And then we take things like the remaining strength of schedule into consideration as well. So let's see if we can marry one of these concepts. Boom. Isaiah Pacheco. 7th in red zone rushes, capitalizing on a decent amount of touchdowns. And he has the second easiest schedule remaining for running backs. If you can find where the crosshairs meet on those two concepts, I mean, think about that. You have somebody who's getting plenty of chances around the red zone in Isaiah Pacheco. You have somebody with an easy remaining schedule. And you have somebody on a winning football team. What do teams do when they're up? They chew the clock. They run the ball down the stretch. This guy is getting opportunity. This guy has an easy remaining schedule. And this guy is getting plenty of looks inside the 20. I'm buying the heck out of Isaiah Pacheco right now. Because we have multiple factors reinforcing that this guy should catch fire at the right time. That this guy's going to have the chance to catch fire at the right time. He's going to be put in a very optimal position to do just that. All right. MA Football Guy says Charbonnet, Achane, Derrick Henry. Need to. Charbonnet, Achane, Derrick Henry. Achane, we need to know that he's 100% coming back. I need confirmation on that. Otherwise, I don't feel good about it. Derrick Henry up against the Colts. Charbonnet filling in, of course, for Kenneth Walker III going up against the Cowboys front seven. So again, now we're going to look at strength of opposition. I think yards per carry allowed is a decent stat. Now, if you have teams that are winning a lot and their runs are telegraphed, meaning it's expected they're going to run, maybe they won't do as well. But we're going to look at strength of opposition here. We will start with Charbonnet going up against Dallas, allowing 4.1 yards per carry, top half of the league in that category. All right, the other two, Derrick Henry going up against the Colts, division rival. Colts, 4.2 yards per carry. Nothing blaring here. These are just things we want to consider. And the Dolphins going up against the Commanders, Washington, 4.4. Achane's got the raw talent. If we're talking PPR, we also want to consider pass catching upside. I'm thinking Charbonnet and Henry, just because I'm wary about Achane and the fact that he's got so much volume competition in that backfield. All right, so there is that. So I'm thinking Charbonnet and Henry here. And I like the pickup, MA Football Guy, of Russ and swapping him for Howell. We like the climate that Sam Howell's in. Now, he does get sacked a lot. But this team has to go so throw-heavy because their defense is so poor, and we've seen that. Washington's the most throw-heavy team in the league by a whole percentage point. But overall, Russ has been producing for us. All right. Wesley saying, thinking about going receiver instead of Foreman. I put in a waiver claim for Wilson, but I already got Hill, Ayuk, Dotson, and Greg Dortch. Thinking about taking a flyer on Jameson Williams at the bottom of the bench. Now, Jameson Williams, I wasn't the biggest fan of until a couple of weeks ago when he actually started to see a little bit of volume. For a while, I was getting really mad at the fantasy football community. I don't know why, because I wasn't going to do it. It doesn't impact me. Because they were jumping on someone who wasn't seeing volume and who saw literally one big catch last year. That's the only reason. He had one catch last year and 9 targets. It was a 41-yard touchdown. Yes, I'm aware of what he did at Alabama. I'm very aware of what he did before the injury. But now we're starting to see a little more usage. And in a deeper league format, we've got a couple touchdowns. We had a 6-target game where he didn't touch the ball, but that's a different thing, I guess. I think we have something that starts to get a little more interesting. It's still not the most attractive. We have a very low reception percentage, or catch percentage. But it's not something I would hate taking a chance on, considering we have a little more of a sample size to go off of. He's healthy. He's no longer suspended. I'm all right with it. All right, folks, shorter stream, but I'm going to wrap it there. We'll go over more strategies later this week. Again, join the Discord. There is a link in the description below. I will let you know when I'm live streaming before I live stream. I have a general chat. I have an announcements chat that kind of goes around live streaming, start and sit chat, trading chat. And then I also just have a research tab. So if you like to nerd out over certain stats, I'm going over best target share against weak oppositions, best matchups for the week, random things like that, anything per request, really. So, folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Again, make sure you leave a like and subscribe here to Armchair Fantasy Football if you're enjoying the content, and we will see you in the next live stream.